Hello, hello. So I know one of my main intentions for making videos and posting them here uh, had to do with the paranormal and I think kind of spiritual, weird, hocus pocus kind of stuff. Um, and interestingly, when I'm talking about politics, and now I'm about to talk about, I did say I wanted to talk about diet, but I guess I anticipated it uh, in my own head as being further down the line. But here I am. I uh, I want to touch upon diet a little bit. I've had a lot of experience with different diets, different eating habits and patterns. I grew up in New Orleans, so I ate a lot of I used to eat crawfish for breakfast. Um, I've had all kinds of things in my mouth and in my stomach, and sometime I think it was I had my lung collapse twice when I was 17, and shortly after that, a few years later, I caught wind of yoga and started trying to pay attention to diet. And initially, interestingly, when I began, I guess, flirting with the idea of veganism, uh, it really stemmed from empathy towards animals. I thought, well, do we have to kill animals to eat? At the time, I had not done a lot of research. I was a teenager, and I just thought, I can eat fruit and nuts and oatmeal and you know things of that nature. And I went through many phases with my diet. I noticed every time I went into veganism or tried to do it, I would get cravings for meat. I'd try to have eggs. It, I didn't really. I don't have this conversation mapped out. Um, my objective is to point out that what we eat, in my opinion, is not as important as why we eat. I have a son who's 15 years old. At a very early age, he was 6 months when I tried to feed him an organic soy formula and ended up having to take him to the emergency room because he started vomiting violently. The first thing we found out was an allergy to soy. But later on, we realized he was allergic to wheat and nuts and eggs and dairy and fish and uh, garlic. Ended up developing an allergy to chicken. Um, if I had my way, would have probably raised him somewhat pescatarian. Lots of fresh fruit and vegetables and some shrimp and fish. Shrimp and fish were out of the question. Um, it became evident, early on in his life that we should probably buy some bacon. We should probably get some meat, get some beef. Um, I remember as a child growing up in New Orleans, aside from having crawfish for breakfast, I remember, anytime I had a plate of food that my mother would cook or from a restaurant or whatever, I always ate the meat first. Sometimes with pizza, I would eat the cheese off the top, and let the bread be. Um, I had an experience recently, and I'm telling you, I've been vegan. I've gone on mono fruit diets where I've had just grapes for long periods of time. I've been on 7-day, 15-day, 30-day fasts. I've seen the benefits. There are some benefits that you can get from fasting, particularly ketosis. Your body goes into ketosis. You begin creating ketones and feeding off your body. Interestingly, that's exactly what happens when you're on the keto diet, which is a high meat diet, a high protein diet. Um, I find it interesting that eating a diet persisting primarily of meat or beef even will mimic what happens to the body when you are not taking anything in at all. Yet you're still being nourished. You're getting your protein. You're getting all of these nutrients It's kind of like the best of both worlds. I didn't realize that until recently. Last year, my mother passed away. I dealt with some heavy anxiety, obviously grief and depression, and had two particular experiences where one I called the 911 on myself. I thought I was having a heart attack or a stroke or something. It was pretty heavy. And I was told after the paramedics came to me and, you know, did their tests and hooked me up to suction cups and whatnot, that I was not having a heart attack and was likely not having a stroke. And it seemed to be, they told me it was almost definitely a panic attack or an anxiety attack, which is something I dealt with in the past, but not like this. This was a little different, but they told me these could be signs of that. I dealt with anxiety after my lung collapsed twice when I was 17, trauma to the breathing apparatus, and considering anxiety attacks are largely a result of hyperventilation. And I was kind of having to figure out how to breathe again. So it was, I guess, to be expected at that time. And then I had other stressful moments in my life. But my mother passing was a different, nobody had ever died in front of me before. This is the first one, and it was my mom, and I tried to revive her, and it was a traumatic thing. I've grown over the past year and a half to look at it as kind of a blessing. I was talking to somebody today about it, and just the idea that my mother brought me into this world, and I got to hold her in my hands as she exited. And it's as much as it sucked, it's kind of poetic and beautiful at the same time. If she was going to have to go, I can tell you, because I was right there, she went quick, and I was right there, and me and my son. But that's beside the point. I don't want to get all teary-eyed right now. The point is I dealt with a lot of inner stuff, and called 911 on myself that one time. When it happened to me again, I called my brother. I said, will you take me up to the ER? I want to just let the hospital test me. EKGs, tested my blood and my urine and my liver and everything, and found out I was healthy, but also found out that, again, the doctor came in and said, you're having panic attacks. And interestingly, shortly thereafter, I caught wind of it was an hour and a half long video of a guy who was a human biologist being interviewed, and one of the things he mentioned was anxiety. And he said he was this guy that was into gene testing and et cetera, et cetera. And he said some people are having anxiety and depression, things of that nature, and would benefit from being on medications for these things. He said other people, these symptoms can show up when you are missing nutrients, missing amino acids. You're not being nourished properly. And he said that if you can't afford to go to somebody like him, that he would advise going on a keto or a carnivore diet. And I was so stressed and depressed and down at the time that I said, what the hell? And I had doctors. I have asthma. I told you my lung has collapsed twice. I've had asthma. Always have an inhaler in my pocket. And I've had doctors tell me to not eat a lot of, pork or red meat, to eat lighter, chicken and seafood if I'm going to have animal foods, and eat lots of fruits and vegetables, move to a dry climate. So I've tried to limit these things, but I have noticed in the past, every now and then I would buy a steak, for me and my son. And I'd noticed the day after I would eat a ribeye, I felt really good. So I decided to go on this carnivore diet. In fact, the first 2 weeks I was doing, animal protein, basically, beef, pork, eggs. That was the main, every now and then some chicken, some fish here and there, some shrimp here and there. But I was eating that with bananas because I had bananas at the house. Within a week, a week and a half, my anxiety was down. My depression was down. I still missed my mom, but it wasn't as out of whack as it was previously. And interestingly, I started noticing other signs. I slimmed down. I noticed muscle tone when I wasn't even working out. It seemed like all of a sudden my muscles were responding to this. My energy levels. I'm 46 years old. I was actually about to be 46 when I started this diet, and my energy level went up. And I can tell you, being in my mid 40s, my energy level had gone down. I'd felt it go down over the past, 5 years or so. You're at your height in your 20s, maybe early 30s, and then it kind of starts to trickle. And my libido went up, my testosterone went up, and my asthma, which I've had for all my life, all of a sudden started to dissipate. I still needed to use my inhaler every now and then, but it wasn't as frequent, and the symptoms of my asthma were not as severe. And I wasn't, like I said, I was trying to deal with my anxiety and my depression. And all of a sudden, all these other things are happening. So I start searching on Google and YouTube, do people notice asthma going away with an all meat diet? Yes, they do. People notice autoimmune diseases clearing up, going away. People notice who have diabetes. Some people have mentioned in their testimonials that they don't need to take insulin anymore, or they need less insulin. I wanted to bring this out into the open, I guess, on my channel for anybody who might be interested, because there's a lot of information out there. I don't know if I want to call it misinformation, because I think we're all different, and I think our needs are different, which is why I said it's why we eat that is more important than what we eat. In the case of my son, as much as I wanted to feed him fish and garlic, I couldn't. It was very much a matter of, well, why is he eating this? Because this shit'll kill him. So I started thinking about it, and I thought, well, what would an optimum diet be? Or let's just say, what would we be eating if we had to fend for ourselves, if we didn't live in the world of convenience, the land of, grocery stores and convenience stores and restaurants and anything we want at the drop of a dime, if we have the cash to go get it. If we had to wake up every morning and forage for food, or grow food, or go hunt, or go fishing, right? Trap animals, whatever it would take, right? We would do whatever it would take, especially if you're a parent, if you know what it means to want to be there for your child, you would do whatever it took. And the further north you go, where, plant life dies, and if your crop fails, all of a sudden you don't have crops for months at a time, you're going to be forced to either go on a very, very lengthy fast or eat animal foods, period. And when you look at life like that, which is how life was for the majority of our existence, in this place, on this planet, that's what life would have been. And, many people who were like me, who wanted to be vegan for a long period of time, would probably be banging your door down for some rabbit stew. Well, maybe not. I like rabbits. I wouldn't want to kill a rabbit. And I like all animals, I don't like, let's put it like this. I don't like the idea of killing animals to eat any more than I like the idea that we're all going to drop dead one day. I don't like it. I think it sucks, but we're all here, right? And I empathize with anyone who empathizes with animals and wants animals to live long, healthy lives, and can see that, I watched some squirrels playing. It looked like a baby squirrel with a mama squirrel playing in a tree today, and they were having a good time. I think, I know there's a group of people, there's a class of people that likes to assume that animals don't have emotions and don't feel. And I think that's bullshit. I think they do, but so do we. And I think that, certainly killing for fun is bullshit. I don't ascribe to that, but to sustain oneself and to sustain your children and to sustain your family, I think it's the way it's been for a really long time. And maybe one day we can get over that hump, but I think our bodies, and I've shown myself this in the past almost a year now, a good 11 months. Um, I have I have seen that eating high quantities of meat, I mostly eat meat and fruit now, um, is optimal for me. Um, it just is. Um, and to anybody who looks at me and sees this and says, damn you for eating animals, damn you for bathing. You have living microbes all over your body that you are killing, you know, many of these life forms every time you take a shower. You know what I mean? Every time you dry off from the shower, every time you walk on the ground, if you walk over the grass, how many bugs are you killing that are living in that grass? Do you think about it? Most self-righteous people who like to talk about, well, don't you can't shouldn't eat beef because, you know, I've been watching a lot of testimonials, people who are on this diet, who just eat. There's a diet they call the lion diet, where all you eat is beef. And particularly they say the healthiest way to go is ruminant animals, animals with hooves. But there are people who have been on these diets, thoracic surgeons, heart surgeons, for years and years now, and thriving. I watched an interview with a lady who, it said, the title of the video was 65 years on a carnivore diet. And so I clicked on it and I started watching this video, and it was a lady speaking, and I thought she looks like she's about 65 years old. And then she said her birth date. And I realized, no, this lady is in her 80s. She's just been straight carnivore, she is purporting, for the past 65 years. And she looked really good, very on the ball mentally. I mean, I'm just saying, look, it's something to consider. There are people that may be like me that would like to not have to kill, or eat the bodies of animals to survive, that maybe are having a hard time and trying to be vegan from a conscientious, angle, but maybe it's not working out. And just consider, there's an old book, I believe, is something to the effect of eating for your blood type. And if I remember correctly, when I looked into that years ago, a lot of it was that some people do better on lots of vegetables and fruits, and some people do better on lots of meats. And there are some people that, your blood type, a good mixture of both is wise. Like I said, over the past almost a year now, I've found that eating primarily meat and fruit. I tried to eat just meat for a few months, and I noticed that you can have loose stools, which they say is just part of it's kind of a breaking yourself in, and then everything normalizes. But I also noticed a lot of muscle twitching, not painful, but like when you get an eyelid twitch, there was a lot of that. And there is a lot of talk. If you look up anyone talking about the carnivore diet or keto diet, people will say it can kind of balance your electrolytes out if you throw a banana, an orange, or some grapes in. So I guess that's all I wanted to say. We're all different. We're all going to drop dead. I think it probably is a more humane, honorable way to go about eating your meat if you hunt. At least an animal didn't have to die in some kind of fucked up factory farm, and there was sport that happened, and the animal died like it would have eventually anyway, possibly in a more brutal way by another animal. There are a lot of things about this life that I don't like death, but it is coming. We're all going to walk through that door. And in the meantime, we're all just trying to make it through, trying to be happy, trying to be content, have a roof over our heads, food in our mouths. And, like I just took this deep breath, in my own case, when I'm eating a primarily fruit and vegetable diet, I can't do that. There are oxalates in plants that, plants have their own defense chemicals that they don't want to be eaten either. I believe that everything on this planet is alive and possibly indwelled with spirit. And so I think no matter which way you go, you're taking life and you're putting. I mean, unless you can be a breatharian and just survive off prana, which I've heard some people claim to be able to do that. I don't know myself. I know I'm not there yet. So in the meantime, until I can survive off the wind and the air alone, I find ribeye steaks delicious, and I really like bacon, and it's helped me a lot during this period of my life, and in ways that really could have helped me in other periods of my life in years past. So that's my video. I've been on a carnivore, fruit and meat primarily diet, and it's been really beneficial to me. So it's something to think about. Again, remember, if we did not live in the land of convenience and had to go out and forage and grow food, there would be times where we would just not find food, where crops would fail, where you would go out to hunt and you wouldn't find anything. Nature would make it so that we would have to fast, which I guarantee you is beneficial. It puts you into ketosis, which heals the body. People have healed cancer, and tumors have dissolved through fasting. There are, you can find this information. But in the same way, I've heard people talking about this kind of thing on a carnivore diet, which again puts you into ketosis, which allows your body to feed off of itself, and quite frankly, it seems to put you in a healthier state. Not to mention the fact, and this is another thing, I should have, I don't remember the names of the people, but this was when a lot of the processed food came into play in the grocery stores. It started, if I'm not mistaken, largely with Graham. I forget the guy's name, but his last name was Graham, who created the graham cracker. He was part of I think it was a Christian religious sect, and he realized that feeding people these processed, primarily grain processed, sugar-filled foods would lower the libido, which he looked at as sinful, right? And so he had this agenda to push his product to lower the libido of people. If you're a man, your testosterone is going to go down if you're eating cereal all the time. And I'm telling you, that's the case. That's what'll happen. And you can Google this stuff. Like I said, I forgot his name. And I should have done some research before I made this video, but now I'm 23 minutes in. So I'm probably just going to post it. Maybe I'll make another video or put some notes at the bottom. But it was whatever Graham who made the graham cracker. And then was it Kellogg or Post? I think it was the other guy was Kellogg, who followed suit, had the same agenda, wanted to try to lower the libido of humanity to prevent sinful behavior and prevent people from going to hell. If I'm going to get into more religious talk later, but I mean, there's some proof right there of some stuff if you want to read anything into that. Anyway, if you're not doing well, if you're going through issues with autoimmune disease, or if you're overweight, if you're obese, if you're having problems with asthma, if you're having problems with anxiety and depression, sure, you can meditate. There's all kinds of practices that you can get into. But I'm telling you, going on a carnivore diet, eating primarily meat for a period of time, will make you feel better. From my experience and from the experience of many that I've heard speak about this. So it's your call. And that's what I have to say about this. There's a, I said that I would follow each video with a song. And I don't remember if there was even a name to it. If you go and find the entirety, I know most people go online, of the band Tool. They have a record called Undertow. And at the very end of Undertow, there's a hidden song at the end. I believe it's song number 69. It goes all the way to 69 and then plays. That's the song that I'm going to add to the end of this video. Life feeds on life. This is necessary. Take care.